Electric cars took over the road. So why hasn't a single electric outboard taken over the water? It's not because they're slow. That myth is dead. It's not because the technology doesn't work. The reason electric boats are still stuck at the dock has nothing to do with the motor, and everything to do with one brutal law of physics that nobody selling you one is going to bring up. Once you see it, you'll understand why a battery can move a 2-ton car 300 miles and struggle to push a small boat across a lake. So let's get into it. The rule of nature that makes this so hard, the real numbers on range and price the brochures quietly skip, and the honest answer on whether you should be waiting or buying right now. Because there's a boat or electric is already perfect for. It just might not be you. Quick thing before we start. Whatever ends up on your transom, gas or electric, the thing that actually drains your wallet isn't the motor. It's the repair bill you have no way to judge. That's why I wrote the Outboard Repair Defense Guide, a book that tells you what every outboard repair should really cost and how to spot a padded quote in seconds. It's $39. The link's in the description, and it'll save you a lot more than that the first time you use it. Now, back to the physics. This is the thing that changes everything. And once you understand it, every other problem with electric boats makes sense. A car rolls, a boat pushes. When you drive a car down the highway, the tires roll on hard pavement, and the only real thing fighting you is a bit of friction and some air. It's efficient. That's why a battery can push a 2-ton car for hundreds of miles without breaking a sweat. Now put that same battery on a boat, your hull isn't rolling on anything. It's shoving a wall of water out of the way constantly, and water is roughly 800 times denser than air. Every single foot you travel, you're bulldozing that water aside. It's one of the least efficient things you can ask a motor to do. And it gets worse because of the part that really kills you. The drag on a boat doesn't climb steadily with speed. It climbs with the square of your speed. Go twice as fast and you don't burn twice the energy. You burn roughly 4 times the energy. Sit with that. On a car, doubling your speed costs you something, but it's manageable. On a boat, doubling your speed nearly quadruples the power you're demanding, which means it drains your battery about 4 times faster. That is the wall electric boats keep smashing into. And it's not a design flaw anyone can engineer away. It's a law of nature. This is why an electric outboard can be brilliant at low speed and hopeless when you open it up. Creeping around at trolling speed, an electric will run for hours, sometimes 8 or more. Push that same motor to wide open throttle, and you might get an hour or a lot less. Same motor, same battery, completely different day, because the water is charging you exponentially for every knot you add. So it's not that electric motors are weak. It's that boats are brutally expensive to move. And the faster you go, the more brutal it gets. And that one fact is the root of every single problem we're about to talk about. So that physics turns into a very real number. And it's the number that ends most people's interest in electric: range. Start with what you're actually giving up. A 6-gallon portable gas tank, the little red one you can carry in one hand, gives you hours of cruising. To store that same amount of energy in batteries, you need a pack that weighs vastly more and costs thousands of dollars. Gasoline is one of the densest ways to carry energy that humans have ever found, and that's the quiet advantage it's had this whole time. You're not just comparing 2 motors. You're comparing an energy source that's incredibly compact against one that isn't, and the batteries lose that fight badly. Now the real-world numbers. One of the serious, high-power electric outboard makers is honest about it. They cite 20 to 35 nautical miles at cruising speed on a serious battery setup. On a good day, planned properly, that gets a lot of people through an afternoon. But that's the good case. And this is where the brochure quietly stops talking. Manufacturers publish range figures the same way car makers publish fuel economy numbers, under ideal conditions. Calm water, light load, moderate throttle. Put that same motor into a headwind with a fully loaded boat, and you can see half the range they advertise. Half. So the number on the box is the best case, not your case. And there's a catch under the catch that almost nobody talks about. You're not even allowed to use the whole battery. Running a lithium pack down below 20% on a regular basis damages it and shortens its life. So responsible owners keep a reserve. Some motors won't even let you. They automatically cut your power once you hit that 20% mark. So your usable range is less than the rated range, which was already the best case number. Then add cold weather, which drops lithium performance and cuts your runtime on a chilly morning. Layer all of that up, and the range you actually have on a real day is a long way from the number that sold you the motor. But even that isn't the thing that stops most people cold. It's what happens when you run out. This is the part that people don't think about until it's too late. And it's the single most important practical difference between gas and electric on the water. Run a gas tank dry and it's an inconvenience. You pour in more fuel from a can, or you idle over to a fuel dock and you're back underway in about 2 minutes. Annoying, sure, but the day continues. Now run an electric battery dry. You don't pour anything in. There's no jerry can of electricity in your storage locker. Your day is finished, and you're waiting hours to recharge, assuming you can even get to a charger. That asymmetry is enormous. And it's the reason a lot of experienced boaters won't touch electric yet. And it changes how you have to think the entire time you're out there. With gas, you check the tank, and if it's low, you top off. With electric, you're doing math all day. You're watching the charge, calculating whether you've got enough to get back, remembering that the return trip might be into a headwind that'll eat more power than the ride out, and keeping that 20% reserve in your head. You're never just boating. You're managing a battery. For someone spending an all-day trip pulling tubes or running offshore to a fishing spot, that mental load is a deal breaker before you've even talked about the range. Then there's the charging itself. Overnight at your own dock or in your own garage, plugging in is genuinely easy, easier than hauling gas cans. And that's a real advantage. But if you trailer your boat to a remote ramp, or you launch somewhere without power, or you want to run 2 days in a row without a long stop, the whole thing falls apart. Gasoline is available literally everywhere, on the water and on the road. Charging infrastructure for boats is not. So the convenience story flips completely depending on where you actually launch. And for most people who trailer, it flips the wrong way. That's the practical wall. But there's still one more, and for a lot of people, it's the one that decides it before they even get this far. And then there's the money, which for most people is where the conversation ends before it starts. Electric outboards are expensive. Not a little expensive. A complete electric system can cost 2 or 3 times what a brand new 4-stroke costs you. And it's not really the motor that's doing that. The motor itself is often reasonable. It's the batteries. High-voltage lithium packs are the single most expensive part of the whole setup. They're the heaviest part, and they're the part that wears out over time. So when you price an electric outboard, you're not buying a motor. You're buying a motor plus a very expensive energy tank. Look at what that means at both ends of the market. Down at the small end, a 3-horsepower equivalent electric outboard, the kind you'd hang on a dinghy or a little inflatable, runs right around $3,000. A comparable little gas motor costs a fraction of that. And at the serious end, a complete high-power electric system from one of the real manufacturers runs anywhere from $30,000 to $100,000, depending on how much battery you bolt on. That's a car. That's sometimes a whole boat. There's an honest explanation for the price, and it isn't greed. Batteries are genuinely expensive to build, and the marine industry hasn't hit the scale that brought car battery prices down. Cars sell in the millions. Electric outboards do not. At least not yet. Until the volume goes up, the prices stay up. And that's simply where the technology is right now. So put the whole picture together, because this is the wall in plain terms. You're paying 2 or 3 times as much for a boat that goes a fraction as far. And when it runs out, your day ends instead of pausing for 2 minutes at the fuel dock. That's not a marketing problem or a reputation problem. That's a set of hard trade-offs. And it's exactly why the industry itself says that until batteries get better and cheaper, gas remains king for most recreational boaters. And yet, if you stop the story right there, you'd be getting it badly wrong. Because there's another side to this that's just as real. And it's the part the anti-electric crowd never mentions. Because once you actually own one, the numbers flip completely. And this is the part that surprises people. Start with what it costs to run. Charging an electric boat for a full day on the water costs somewhere around $5 or $6 in electricity. Now think about what you spend filling a decent-sized boat with gas. On a big day out, that fuel bill can run $200 or more. Read those two numbers next to each other. $5 against $200. So the machine that costs you 2 or 3 times as much to buy costs almost nothing to feed. Every single time you use it. That gap doesn't erase the purchase price, but it chips away at it every trip you take. And for someone who's out on the water constantly, it chips fast. Then there's the maintenance, or really the absence of it. Think about everything on your gas motor that eventually costs you money. Oil changes, spark plugs, a fuel system that gums up if you look at it wrong, the carburetor, the impeller that has to come out on a schedule, and winterizing the whole thing every single fall. Now go look at an electric outboard and count how many of those it has. Almost none of them. There's no oil to change, no plugs to foul, no fuel system to varnish over, nothing to winterize. The batteries in the good system are rated for around 3,000 charge cycles before they lose meaningful capacity. So they're not disposable either. And the experience itself is genuinely better in ways you feel immediately. It's near silent, so you can talk at speed, and you don't spook fish or annoy the whole lake. No fumes blowing back over the transom. No pull starting a cold motor at the ramp with everyone watching. No gas cans slopping around in your truck. The instant torque means it grabs the second you touch the throttle. People who switch to electric on the right kind of boat don't tend to go back, and that's worth taking seriously. So the fair verdict isn't that electric is bad. It's that electric is expensive to buy and cheap to own, while gas is cheap to buy and expensive to own. Which one wins depends entirely on how you actually use your boat. And that brings us to the only question that really matters here. The honest answer is this, and it isn't the one either side wants to give you. Electric is already the right choice for some boaters, right now, today. It's just not the right choice for most. Buy electric if you boat on small lakes, especially the restricted ones where gas motors are limited or banned outright. Because in that case, it isn't even a debate. Electric is your only real answer. Buy it if you take short trips, an hour of sunset cruising, a run out to the sandbar, and you come back to a dock with power. Buy it if you use a tender, because for short ship-to-shore runs it's clean, quiet, light, and there's no gas can leaking in your locker. And buy it if you're the kind of person who'd rather spend Saturday morning on the water than in the garage with a carburetor float bowl in your hand, because the maintenance savings alone will make you happy every single season. Stay with gas if you want to go fast and far, because that's exactly where the physics turns against electric hardest. Stay with gas if you run offshore or spend all day pulling tubes, or fish spots that are miles from the ramp. Stay with gas if your trailer launches where there's no power to charge at. And stay with gas if you're budget conscious, because a modern 4-stroke is still the best balance of performance and price on the market. And nothing electric touches it on that yet. Which brings us to the real conclusion. Electric outboards aren't a scam, and they're not slow anymore. And they're not a joke. They're held back by physics, not by marketing. And that's an important difference. The motors are already good. The problem is that water is a brutally expensive thing to push. And until batteries get significantly cheaper and hold significantly more energy, gas stays king for most people. That day is coming. Battery tech gets better every year, but it isn't here yet. And anyone telling you it is selling something. So don't feel behind for keeping your gas motor. And don't laugh at the guy with the electric one either. Just know which kind of boater you are and buy the motor that fits the water you actually run. I'll see you in the next one.